Well, we've been talking all month long about this one idea. This one idea that you don't have to be famous. You don't have to have 1 million Twitter followers. In fact, no one, even if no one knows your name, you can bring change. You can do meaningful, and in fact, you can do amazing things even if no one knows your name. And we've been talking about that for 3 weeks now. And this morning, I'm going to make a little turn. I'm not going to talk about that because I think you've already preached that this week. I think that got preached on Friday and Saturday morning in the rain, in the sun, in the truck, in the stand, in the tents. I mean, all over. Yes, you could clap for you because it was amazing what happened this week at Relay for Life, and we're going to show you in a little bit. But I think you've preached that sermon pretty well, and I wouldn't even begin to come up here and try to preach it again with words because there's just no need. But I do want to say this. I want to talk about this idea this morning. I want to talk about why we serve others and why it matters and why a church should do that and why in particular, not to talk about anyone else, but why Action Church does it and should do it and will do all of those things. And we're going to talk about another nameless guy this morning, someone that we've never uncovered the identity of. He's just called the blind man or the man born blind, which is kind of an important distinction. He wasn't just a guy who was blinded. He wasn't just a guy who, sadly became blind over the years. This guy that we're going to talk about today, Scripture says that he had never seen. He was born that way. He literally not only didn't see, but he didn't even have a concept of what it would be like to see light. Didn't even have a concept of what it would be like to see images. He'd always been blind. Now, this was in the time of Jesus, when being blind wasn't just a handicap. It was sort of almost a death sentence because we find this blind man couldn't work, couldn't provide for himself. The best he could do, the only thing he could do, there's no safety net, there's no people to help him, there are no service animals, there's no handicapped interest. Like literally the best he could do is stand by the road and beg and pray and hope that someone would give him something to eat for that day. And that's when we meet this man that we don't know his name, but Jesus and his disciples walk past. And I just want to take you into John chapter 9, one of the most amazing stories in Scripture. And it goes a little something like this. It says, Jesus is walking along, and bear in mind, this sounds like the most insensitive question in the world, but we're going to talk about it. It says, as he was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or because of his parents' sins? Now that, admittedly, a pretty difficult question to ask, isn't it? And you have to understand in their culture, their whole idea was that obviously when someone had some sort of difficulty, when someone had some sort of disability, they immediately thought, well, it's because of something they did. And if it wasn't because of something they did, then perhaps their parents did something wrong. Now, you and I wouldn't think that, and we probably wouldn't ask this question if Jesus were here because it would seem really, really rude and really, really insensitive. But we might ask this question. Think about this. Think about how, even though things have changed, they haven't changed a lot. Because yesterday we were at this Relay for Life for the American Cancer Society, and one thing that you heard, when they talked about, like cancer and what it caused, they never once said, I wonder if it's caused by the sin of the parents or by the person, but you heard these two words. You heard people say, cancer can come from heredity or environment, right? Like you could work in an environment or do something in your life that environment causes you to have cancer, or sometimes it's heredity. So even though they didn't quite understand how things worked, and this sounds really harsh to us, they were asking this question for the same reason we ask this question today, like, why? Why do all these people, at the Survivor dinner yesterday, we've got all these people in purple shirts sitting there, and some of them had oxygen tubes, and some of them, looked pretty well, and I was happy to see that, and some of them did not look well at all, but the question you had when you looked at them, if you had any freaking compassion at all, was like, why? Why are people having cancer? Same question. Was it, their environment? It doesn't matter. But you have to understand these disciples are sort of making conversation. They're sort of just asking Jesus, why? Why is it like this? And then Jesus takes a completely different turn. Even though we today maybe wish he'd answered this question, well, here's why. He says something, he sort of opens up this new category, which in itself sounds a little offensive, and I'm just going to read it to you. He said this, Jesus said, well, it wasn't because of his sins or his parents' sins. This happened. Now listen to this. Jesus has this whole new category for why people were born blind, why bad things happen to good people, why horrible diseases happen. He said this happened so the power of God could be seen in him. Now, I don't know about you. That's not super satisfied, kind of like jerk store. You know what? You're saying you want people to be blind so that God will get glory, Jesus? That doesn't seem like a great policy. I don't think we're going to make T-shirts about. And here's the thing. We're going to circle back to this. We're going to deal with what Jesus said, that this happened so that the power of God could be seen, could be displayed. We're going to circle back around to this, and I want to tell you something this morning that's going to surprise you. I think by the time we get to the end of this, you're going to agree with Jesus. Even if you think it's sort of like, ooh, I don't want to hear that, or ooh, I don't think that that's right, or that's offensive. My guess is by the end of this, you'll agree with Jesus, but we need to go a little different direction first. So let's just follow along. We'll come back to this later and see what happened next. In verse 4 it says, and Jesus sort of goes a little Jack Bauer. If you're watching the new old 24, you know where Jack is always like, Chloe, we're running out of time. That's all he says. Like that'd be a great drinking game for Kool-Aid. But like he's always saying we're running out of time, and that's basically what Jesus said. He said, we must quickly talking to his disciples, he said, we must quickly carry out the tasks assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming when no one can work, but while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Now, let's stop right there real quick and kind of explain that's a weird response, like it's the light of the world, night, and no one can. Here's what he was saying, because when Jesus came on the scene, Jesus was completely humbled, completely a servant, but he was also confident. He was confident in the fact that he was the Son of God. And one of the first acts Jesus ever did is to go into his hometown. Imagine going into his hometown church, his hometown synagogue, and they asked him to read a scroll, which was sort of an honor. And here's what he read. Keep in mind, he read this while this is, in Luke 7:17, it says this. He read from Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, and that the oppressed will be free. So he's reading this from Isaiah, and then he says this. And he said he rolled up the scroll and handed it back to the attendant and sat down. And then he said, the scripture you've just heard has been fulfilled this day. See, Jesus called it. Like Jesus said, home run, left, I don't know, no more sports analogies. We'll get to that next month. But Jesus called his shot. Jesus said, I am this guy. Because of me, like, I'm going to bring the good news to the poor. Blind people will see. So when he said to his disciples, let's do this thing, he was actually saying, I promised I would heal blind people. So then he did this, which is really weird. He said, then he spit on the ground, and he made mud with his saliva, and he spread the mud over the blind man's eyes, and he told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, and Siloam means sent. So the man went, and he washed, and he came back saying, now that's awesome. If you're the blind man, I know you've all got the question. Over the years, people have had the question, why? Why, you know, like how about a nice pair of glasses? How about a touch on the forehead? You know, I don't know, like any other way. Why do you spit on the ground, make mud, put it on the guy's eye, make him go to a certain pool? I don't know. In fact, I think, in thinking about this, Jesus did this different every time. Every time he healed a blind man, every time he healed anyone, he did it different every time. In fact, there's one story of him healing a blind man, which it just makes me laugh because he heals the guy. Have you ever been to the dentist and they put that annoying thing in, or not the dentist, I'm tired if you haven't noticed that, the ophthalmologist, you go to the dentist and they put the eye thing in front of you, you're in the wrong place. But if you go to an ophthalmologist, they always put those two glasses in front of you and goes better or worse, and I never know, so I lie, which is probably why I can't see out of my glasses. I'm like, I don't know. I swear they're just screwing with me with the same thing. There's a story of Jesus, honestly, where he does that to the blind man. The blind man, he heals him. He's like, is that good? And the guy's like, it's a little blurry. And he's like, okay, how about this? I mean, he really does. So I don't know, like Jesus heals people differently every time. And I honestly think that might be the point. As much as we don't understand why he did the things he did, I think the point is because we like formulas, right? Like if he would have done it the same time every time, we'd be spitting on the ground all the time trying to heal blind people. Go, well, that's the way you do it. No, it's not. You know, like I wish you would have bottled some of that Jesus spit. That'd be, I don't know. Like I think he did it differently, honestly, so we couldn't make formulas, and I want to read what happens next. Pretty interesting, and also has one of the dumbest statements in the Bible, I believe. It says, his neighbors and others who knew him as a blind beggar ask each other, is this the man? You know, they see this guy walking around his whole life. He's either the blind kid who can't do anything, the blind kid who can't go to school, the blind kid who just begs. And they said, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? And some of them said, no. He just looks like him. But then the beggar said, yes, I'm the same one. And then they asked him this. They said, who healed you and what happened? And he told them the story. And he said, the man called Jesus came and made mud, and he spread it over my eyes, and he told me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself. So I went and washed, and now I can see. And they said these, which are the dumbest words in the Bible. Where is he now? Well, I don't know. I didn't see him. I mean, I just think that's the dumbest. Yeah, I like, seriously, where is he now? I don't know. Didn't catch him. I was kind of blind at the time. But here, I want you to I want to notice something, though. Something interesting in here, I think, is the fact that when they asked him who did this, notice what he said. The man they called Jesus. Who healed you? Oh, that guy, they call him Jesus. I didn't see him. But that guy they called Jesus, he healed me. And now I wanted you to, and this is sort of a sub-theme of the Nameless series, religious people ruin everything. I want to read this next thing and just notice what the religious people of the day do. Pretty funny. And it says, then they took the man who had been blind to the Pharisees. That's the religious leaders of the day. And because it was on the Sabbath that Jesus had made the mud and healed him, the Pharisees asked the man all about it. See, they weren't as excited about the fact he could see, which is seriously no one has ever done before, obviously. They're concerned because he did it on a Sunday. You're not supposed to work, or not a Sunday, a Saturday was their Sabbath. You're not supposed to do this on the Sabbath. They're worried that their regulation had been broke. Not that this guy can see now, not that he's no longer a beggar, not that everything's changed. No, we want to make sure that all regulations have been followed. And so once again, they asked the man about it, and he told them, he put mud over my eyes, and when I washed it away, I could see. And some of the Pharisees said, this man Jesus, he's not from God, for he is working on the Sabbath. He's broken the rules. And others said, and this is a good question also, but how could an ordinary sinner do such a miraculous sign? So there was a deep division of opinion among them. That's pretty common around Jesus. That's pretty common, actually, around people who follow Jesus. There's sort of a deep division of opinion. So then the Pharisees again questioned the man who had been blind and demanded, what's your opinion? Once again, they're like, did you see him? What did you do? I was blind at the time. All I know kind of sticks to his story. What's your opinion about this man who healed you? And the man replied, well, I think he must be a prophet. I mean, he did heal me, right? Like, I'm here, I'm talking to you, you're yelling at me. And I want you to notice, and sometimes it's so hard to kind of, I think like everything in us, we don't like Pharisees, and they're like the only people in the Bible you can sort of hate, which you can't hate anyone. But like we look at it, we go, we don't understand, like, why were they so worried, like, about their regulation? The guy could see, they're just bureaucrats. We know that. You know, we get confused because, oh, they were Pharisees, they were religious, but we have bureaucrats today. Right now, somewhere in America, there's a homeless shelter being shut down because people aren't properly labeling the food. I mean, that happens. You've read the news stories, like some little regulation is broken and all of a sudden people aren't helped. Bureaucrats do that all the time because it's about power, and it's the same with these guys. They were more worried about their little regulations, about their power, about making sure things were done correctly than people, and we see it today. We know that. But I want you to notice what this blind man said. Notice that when they first asked him, like, who did this, what he said is, the guy they call Jesus. This time he said, well, upon further reflection, the fact I can still see, I'm thinking he's a prophet at least, like, had to be a religious guy. Something powerful happened here. Nobody else helped me like that. Now, the thing that happened next, we're going to have to kind of speed through this because of time, but what they did next is really funny, and you should read this whole chapter. Chapter 9 is awesome. They call his mom and dad. They're like, well, all right then, we're going to call your mom and dad. We'll get to, you know, and the funny thing about mom and dad, this dude like probably like 40, you know, they're like, I don't know. In fact, that's what they said. He's old enough to speak for himself, and it said they were afraid too. So isn't it amazing like how this guy's life blew up because of this nonsense? Like, he can now see, but instead of like being out like going, I think I'll get a job, or hey, she's kind of cute. This is awesome, you know? Like, I don't know, like, it could have been like watching TV all of a sudden, but he's like, instead of that, he's in front of them and they're questioning him. They're calling his whole family in. It's like going crazy. And let me read. It just gets out of hand. It's ridiculous. It says, then they cursed him. They cursed the guy who used to be blind that actually Jesus helped and said, you're his disciple. And we're disciples of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where this man came from. And I like, this guy, he's just incensed. He says, well, why, that's very strange. He healed my eyes, and you don't know where he comes from? Like, you ought to check into this. I like your little meeting. Sorry to mess up your Black Panther party, you know, but you should probably check into this yourself. He said, he heals my eyes, and yet you don't know where he came from. We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but he's ready to hear those who worship him and do his will. You're the religious experts. You know, why didn't you do anything? It says, ever since the world began, and this is a good point, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone born blind. You know, a lot of times when people are born blind, not only do they not have sight, many times the reason, and we don't know this in this case, but it wouldn't surprise me, they don't even have the nerves necessary for sight. So what Jesus did with the mud, you know, God created us out of dust and mud, and what Jesus did somehow is take a guy who's never had sight, possibly not even the nerves of sight. We don't know what was wrong with his eyes, but we know there was no ability from birth for him to see, and somehow reconnected not just his eyeballs, but the passages to the correct place in his brain so he could see. And so this guy makes a pretty good point. He said, if this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it. And then they go, you're a total sinner. Are you trying to teach us? And they throw him out of the synagogue. He's like, I was blind yesterday. Now I'm excommunicated. You know, that's just awesome. But here's sort of a point you should think about, which is true. Like, a lot of times we get sort of hung up. And I know if you've ever, you know, we oh my goodness, it was so amazing to see these amazing caretakers for, you know, people who are in a family of someone with cancer. So many times, and I'm glad one thing about an event like Relay is that we honor not just the people who were ill, but we honor the people who took care of them, because it's amazing like how consuming a disease like cancer or something else could be to a family around them. And oftentimes we get this idea, like if it weren't for cancer, you know, if we could just get past this, and I know in our family we've dealt with some serious diseases in our family, and you always get this idea like if it weren't for this disease, everything's focused on it, everything would be okay then. And then one day when the disease ends or the person passes, you realize that life is still difficult. Life is still, there's still challenges. It's like that was horrible, but the next day you don't wake up and life is great forever. And that's what happened to this guy. Like, he's no longer blind, but life is still difficult for this man. He just got thrown out of the synagogue. You know, he's like, what did I do? And so I want you to just notice what he said, though. In the middle of this, not like you could sort of understand, like under that kind of pressure, that he would go, well, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I could see now. But instead, he sort of doubles down on this whole Jesus idea. He's teaching them. He's telling them, like, if this guy weren't from God, how'd he do it then, smarty? You know, like if you notice, like the progression, he started out just going, that guy named Jesus, I don't know who he is, to going, well, he's got to be like at least a prophet, like some sort of viable religious figure. And then he's like, this guy has power from God. Clearly, I mean, look what he did for me. And here's what I love about Jesus. Jesus doesn't just leave this guy here. Jesus circles back around because he loves him. And this is sort of the end of that story that we're going to read this morning, and it's powerful. So when Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man. He sought him out. And he says to him, do you believe in the Son of Man? And the man answered, well, who is he, sir? I want to. And Jesus said, you have seen him. And he is speaking to you, made it absolutely clear, I am the Son of God, the Son of Man. I am the Messiah. And the man immediately said, yes, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped Jesus. And I want you to notice how he moved. He moved from saying, that guy they call Jesus, I don't know him, to he's a religious figure. He's a prophet or something. I don't know. He had some sort of power to, when he's under pressure, being screamed at by these religious guys, being threatened, and his parents are brought in. It's this giant blow up. He says, well, he has to be from God. And then when he meets Jesus face to face, eventually he's on the ground worshiping him, as all of us will someday, no matter what. Everyone will bow to Jesus. And he says, you are the one. And he worshiped him as Messiah. So let's circle back around after you hear that story to this really offensive statement that Jesus made. That somehow this guy was born blind. Somehow this guy suffered. Somehow this guy had to beg. This guy never had a normal life. And when his disciples asked why, is this because of his parents? Is it because of him? Who did this? What? He said, this is so. This horrible thing is so the power of God can be displayed. God's power will be seen through this blind man. Now, I think you've seen this. In fact, I know you've seen this. I'm going to play you something on the screen that I think will sort of punctuate this. That horrible, horrible things can happen. I can't think of anything worse than cancer, having gone through it in my family, and I know all of you have been touched in some way. And if you haven't, you're like the luckiest 0.5% in the nation. That's awesome. But we've all been touched by something that's just as foundation shaking as a disease like cancer. But what Jesus said is that those horrible events in life, the terrible things that happen that no one can explain, actually can be used to display God's power. Sort of like what we're going to see now. Let's take a look.
Relay like every year, and there are no pictures of me.
We always dreamed about this better life, this better life. We always felt it coming all along, yeah, all along. We got the keys to open paradise, yeah, paradise. Now let's go walking hand in hand. Come on, baby, we can hit the lights, make the wrongs turn right. We can smash the clock, make the pop go
Attention, relayers. It's hot out here.
Trust me. I put myself through worse. Backyard wrestling.
A stamp?
What is that?
No. It's a heart monitor. It's a heart monitor. I'm monitoring my heart.
Is everything okay?
Well, yeah. Smile though, just in case.
It is a carrier, but. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, just cut that poison open. That was not good. Want it?
No, we're okay.
Does it hear me talk? 'Cause I talk stupid sometimes.
We're not using any.
Good.
And even the ladies, beard nets for everyone. Please get this. There's half of a dude here.
I like the GoPro here. That's video tape.
We ate all of them.
I didn't see much left.
No cake for you. We ate all of them.
Now you now look, Johnny, you know me. I cannot handle hard rock music. I am straight up hillbilly.
Me no sweet.
What happened?
He's taking a video of us complaining about people.
Oh no.
I don't want any paparazzi.
We would like a little bit of applause, Kevin. Applause. There you go.
Hey, Scar, you want a super blow pop? Hey!
Would like to thank you, the cast, for spending 24 hours awake to make that, and Josiah for spending about 48 hours awake to make that. That was crazy. And here's the thing you have to remember. We have 24 hours of conversations of you all. There might be other cuts coming out, and I'm just saying, we could probably ruin some political careers here should you ever decide to do that. Sort of the filters go away at about 2 in the morning for some reason, mine included. But here's the thing. I like Bill going, we don't get any audio out of that. I talk stupid sometimes. No, don't worry about that, Bill. But here's the thing. Now, Jesus said that there was a category of horrible things that could happen, but they could be used to put God's power on display. And I heard some weird stuff, and I haven't listened to all the tape yet. I'll be reviewing that. No, not really. But like I heard, people said a lot of things during this event. And here's one I never heard. I never heard any of you say, I'm really glad all these people have cancer so we can do something nice like this, right? Never was said. So not once did anyone say, it's awesome we get to do this. Glad, no. And that's not what Jesus was saying either. Jesus wasn't saying like, oh, it's great he's been blind. He's saying he is blind. He was born blind. Terrible things happen. But those terrible things, we can use them to put God's power on display. Like great things can come. You just saw 5 minutes. You saw it. Like great things can come out of terrible situations if we use them for the glory of God. If we gather together and do what we can do, and that's what Jesus did. Now, it's not just about cancer. It's not just about relay. In fact, I'm going to make an announcement of an announcement, which I'm never supposed to do. But in the coming few months, in just the next few months, we're going to do another thing. There's a family right now, and we don't even know who they are. Talk about Nameless. There's a family right now who is currently homeless, and they won't be because of this church. I'll just tell you that. That's coming in the next. So we're going to do amazing things out of horrible. Yes, I'm excited about that. So stay tuned. But let me just say, it's horrible things. happen. Horrible situations, things we never wish for, but the reason why we serve, the reason why we do things like this, is because we can use them to display God's power. We can use them for good. We can take even terrible things like cancer and do something that puts God's power on display. Now, here's another reason why we serve. And here's another question that people have, and it's a good question. Well, that's awesome, Don. It's nice that Action Church does things like that, but I don't think you noticed there was a lot of other people out there, and there were. Like, we're not the only people doing good things for people with cancer. In fact, there's a thing called American Cancer Society. They seem to be doing a lot for them. So why is the church involved? Why do we have to? Because it's nice we do it, but we're just another organization. I'll tell you why. I will tell you, and as much as I like the American Cancer Society, our mission is better than theirs. And I'll tell you why the church's mission is better than theirs. Because if they cure cancer, literally if next year there is no more cancer, they were successful in their mission, and I hope that's true, I hope they cancel the next relay. And I'm not saying that just because I'm tired, but I'm saying like it would be great, wouldn't it? Like I hope that their mission is complete and that one day they go, we don't really need you for relay because the whole cancer thing, it's cured. That would be awesome. And you know what we would do? We'd throw a really big survivor dinner because everybody would be a survivor. So I think we could turn that into a party, right? But think about this. If they accomplish their mission, if no one has cancer, all of us are going to die, right? Even if you don't have cancer, there's no cure for death. There's no cure for sin. There's no cure for the problems that come along with just living due to sin. Like my father-in-law, you met him. He used to work here and load the truck. He beat cancer. I remember that day we're like, oh, he's cancer-free. That's awesome. This is the most depressing story ever. I shouldn't tell it, but like he got another disease like the next month and died of that. So we're all going to die, and I'm really bringing this down. This was a great moment. But there's no cure for death. All of us are going to die. All of us are going to... And so the reason why the church's mission is so much better, even the American Cancer Society, is we're the only people on the planet who have the answer to that question. Well, what happens when I die? Well, you could be with Jesus forever. What happens when I die? You can live in paradise forever with Jesus. And we have the answer to that. And we also have the answer to what makes life so crappy while we're here, which is sin. And so that's why we serve. We serve because there's no cure for sin and death except for Jesus. And there's one other reason. It's the most important reason why we serve. And it comes from the story, and it's just so others will know Jesus. Now, here's the thing. You go, well, do people know Jesus because we serve him, because we feed him? Maybe. Not all of them, but here's what I bet. I bet you money that someone learned about Jesus in the way the blind man did. You know, now I'm not saying like they're a believer, they're here, they're bowed down. No. I'm just saying some of them, like remember when the blind man, Jesus heals him, Jesus does something amazing for him, and he goes, that dude called Jesus, I don't really know him, but I've heard of him now. Jesus is on my radar. Well, guess what? Because of you, because of your donations, because of your time, because of your hard work, someone at that event, I guarantee, said, I don't know much about this Jesus thing. I don't know much about this love God, love people, take action thing, but I'm annoyed how many times I read it on back of shirts. And so maybe it was like honestly obnoxious after a while. And I'm like, I was here when there was 5 of us, and I'm annoyed with how many. No, it was just the greatest moment of my life to see all of you out there. But it was funny. I was like, you can't sort of miss that. Like, love God, love people, take action. Somebody said, well, I don't know. That thing called Jesus, they fed me dinner. They were kind to me. They helped me with my tent. They, something about that. Or maybe it went a step farther, and maybe down the road someone will go, I don't know about Jesus. I don't know what the whole Action Church thing is, but it has to be because of the good things they do. It's got to be it's a viable religion. Like the blind man said, well, the guy has to be a prophet. And I'm sure someone at some point will say, well, it's a viable religion. At least they do good things for people. At least they serve. At least they fed me. At least they took care of, at least they gave me coffee all night long. Like there's something to this. I don't know what it is. Or maybe at some point they'll say, well, it has to be of God. Why would people come out and serve like that? Why would people be in the heat, in the rain? Why would people give so much money? Why would people work so hard? It has to be something. I don't understand it. I may not even believe in it, but it has to be of God at least. And maybe, even if one person does this would be awesome. Like someday maybe they'll go, you know what? Just like this blind man did. He went through all those stages, and finally he worshiped Jesus as the Messiah, and he gave his life to him, and that's why we do what we do. Because at any level, even if they just go, well, there has to be something that's Jesus, or I don't like Christians, I don't believe in what they believe, but they're good people, and they serve a mean dinner. I mean, I don't care, but that's what we do, and that's why we will continue to do this. But you know this. Here's where it's good for us. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I want the band to come back up here. But you can bring change. You can bring change. You don't need an expert. You don't have to be a cancer specialist. You don't even have to be a dinner specialist. We had like one real server with us, which was nice. You know, like you don't have to have any. Everybody has a skill. Everybody has a talent. Everyone has something they can give, something they can loan, something they can bring, and you can bring change even if no one ever knows your name. You know that. And I just wanted to remind you this morning, and I wanted to thank you personally, but most of all, I wanted to remind you of why we do that, and why it matters, and why it's the biggest mission, and why it never ends until Jesus returns, why we do what we do. Let's pray together. Dear Jesus, thank you. Thank you for not just opening this blind man's eyes. Thank you for opening my eyes to what is possible as we serve and give our lives to you. And God, thank you for so many other people here this morning whose eyes have been opened and they realize because of you, we can do amazing things. That in spite of the terrible things that happen, in spite of like our lack of experience, in spite of like our lack of expertise, that we could actually show people the glory of God, and because of that, they would come to know you. God, that's a great, great honor, and it's just a privilege to do that. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much to the Revive today. That was awesome, guys.
Great.
So we have an app we're going to let you know about. You've probably heard us talking about it, but if you want to see the video again, I'm going to post it on there later today, and we'll post it on all kinds of every single social media. If there's a social media that you're on that we're not on, let me know, and I'll post it on there too.
MySpace, we got to get that up.
Get the
It's pretty
MySpace.
popular
Okay,
right now.
yeah.
But one thing about the app is having the app, like it's great because we were able to communicate with you, keep a schedule up for this event, and if you really want to sort of be tied in and in the know, you're not going to get a bulletin here, but get the app.
So, Kenna, you got to talk about Relay a little bit, or?
If you guys want to let me talk, we can talk about Relay.
Go ahead. Kenna, if for those who maybe who weren't there, Kenna kind of led in the team and was all the
Well,
organizer.
the thing about Kenny is no one knows because she's working all the time, and I love this about her. It's truly, among you, it will be different because you wouldn't maybe pick that she's the one running everything during this 24, and she does so well.
First tear down, there's a first time for everything. First tear down in the rain, but we had walkers on the track until the very, very bitter end, which was just amazing. I think the three of us are living, breathing proof that you can survive on caffeine for 30 straight hours.
I know that I can work on a crab boat too, so I'm excited. Like I want to join Dangerous Catch. I think it's like a day of Relay. I'm pretty excited about that.
I took a 5-hour nap in the afternoon and stayed up all night to edit the video, so I'm over 30 now.
No,
but-
wait a minute. We had to find you in Giant parking
true.
lot. We were worried. At one time, we lost Josiah for about 2 hours. He
forgot
was
about that.
making a run to Giant because we do that as well at Relay for the things that we forget we're back and
Yeah,
forth
they
to-
actually shut our church credit down because they thought there was fraud going on because we had been to Giant 24 times in a row.
We couldn't find Josiah. He was asleep in his car at Giant.
I put it in park first, don't worry.
So, I think Don's sermon was really amazing this morning. It's a matter of numbers. We feed 400 plus cancer survivors and their caregivers. I can't even tell you how many pounds of potatoes and chicken and desserts we feed. Even 250 people in the rain for breakfast the next morning. Hundreds of people, hundreds of you that come out, literally 100 plus this year of Action Church shirts everywhere, running around, love God, love people. But it's about one. And like Don said, if we even touch one one person, and it's there. The shepherd will leave his flock to go and find the one,
Yes.
and that's truly what Relay is about.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing that.
I tried to touch nobody, but that's a different joke. Sorry, Kenna.
It gets
Well,
me
that's
every
also in
time,
your
every
rider.
time.
That's in your contract, actually. That's our youth pastor.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you guys have any questions or comments or want to know more about the church, we can fill out a card. We actually have an action group called Action Core. Kenna leads that, and so if
Yeah.
you, oh yeah, man,
And
Lots
now
of
you're
cheers
all
today.
a part of it.
Yeah,
Now
you
I
could-
know your names. I know your names, and you're all a part of
But
it.
you could do that more often. This
Yeah.
is not just a one time. This is an all play, but Action Church people do this year round through Action Core. So if you'd like to be part of that, see Kenna.
Fill out a card. And so if this is your first time, Don, we have something for those people, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Tell them what they have, Don.
Tell them what they've won. A brand new Corvette. No, that's not it. But actually, we do have a gift for you, and it comes in a bag, so it's not a car. But the interesting thing, just to show how weird Action Church is, if you didn't already know, if it's your first time, we're not trying to get your information or get something from you if it's your first time. We actually have a yummy gift for you, and we'd just like you to stop by and say hi.
So just thank you for inviting your friends, investing your money, get involved. You guys did all three of those this weekend. I saw
Yes.
people I didn't. Maybe you came, I didn't know, but I felt like people invited their friends to Relay.
Yeah,
and
that was great.
and it was awesome.
But if
so.
I could say one thing that people ask every year is, well, how do you do that? I'll tell you how we do that. We spent a silly amount of money, a silly amount of effort, and the neat thing is we build up over the year a silly amount of equipment and stuff. It's like, I don't even know how many tons of crap it takes to do this now. But here's the thing, like, how can we do that on one weekend? Well, because it's already here. Because you already provided that money, provided that equipment, provided those resources, like the video came because you had provided that equipment. And everything that we do comes out of this on Sunday morning. And this is not some big commercial for you to give, but understand the only reason this happens is because people do regularly give to Action Church, and we try to make it easy. Now you could swipe a card out at the iPad. You can give on your app. Another reason to have the app makes it very simple, or drop a cash or check in the box. But we just invite you to be part of that, because then no matter what happens, you can say, well, I did that. I was part of that. So make sure you do.
Sweet. So I'm just going to throw this out there because we never do this, but feel free to share that video, pass it around, because I spent a lot of time on it. Anyways, I'll pray for us and we'll head on out of here. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for this incredible weekend to serve amongst friends and amongst this community. And I thank you for this church that kind of forgets itself and just goes out to love others and love you and actually show with their acts and works. Just thank you again for this great place, and in your name, amen. See you guys next week.